Welcome friends to another r/I don't work here lady video. I know you don't work here, but while you are here, could you hit the like and subscribe buttons down below? That said, our first story of the day is by Jamie Sings. This is a private residence, not SuperCuts. I was reminded of this story while watching a video on YouTube where they read a story from this forum about a guy who kept having a lady call his home, insisting that he was lying and his home was Domino's. This happened many years ago when there was a SuperCuts in my hometown. Their phone number and ours were almost exactly alike, except their last digit was different from ours. Now, ours had the same 3 digits in a row at the end. Think like 333, 777, etc. While theirs was 2 of the same digits, then a 0, i.e. 330, 770, you get the idea. Which means it was very easy to accidentally dial our number instead of theirs if you were dialing too fast. So when I was forced by my parents to answer the phone, instead of hello, I used to say, our last name residence. That always seemed to get the people who meant to call SuperCuts to realize they dialed the wrong number, and I'd just say, oh yeah, theirs ends in a 0, just dial a little slower. They'd thank me and hang up. My mom, for some reason though, still insisted on saying hello instead of answering my way, which meant she often got people trying to make appointments for SuperCuts. Now, I'd say 99% of the time they'd accept from her, oh, you've got the wrong number, this is our name residence. They'd apologize and hang up. One time a kid in the army called because he's been on leave and needed a haircut before he went back. He was very disappointed he called the wrong number. Now, mom happens to be a retired hairstylist and offered to cut his hair for free, even told him where we lived and how to get there. I can't remember if he showed up or if he decided to just go to SuperCuts instead, but one lady did not get it. She kept calling and calling and calling. Mom was the one who answered the first time and every time after. The first time the woman angrily hung up. Then she hung up instantly every single time mom answered the phone and said, hello? Finally, after what must have been a good 10 or 15 minutes of calling our house, she yelled at my mom, would you stop picking up the phone? I'm trying to call SuperCuts. We got an answering machine not long after, and a couple years later, SuperCuts shut down that location, so we stopped getting calls for them. I know, not the most dramatic story compared to some here, but I thought I'd share this old childhood memory. I hope you all have a nice, Karen-free day. In the event that you had a phone number that was just slightly too close to an actual business's, and it was a fairly frequent occurrence to get a call for that business on your line, would that be enough for you to go and change your number? Let me know in the comments down below. This next story is by King of Old School. Ice cream people don't put out their own ice cream. I used to do a sales rep job for a popular Northeast ice cream company. I would have to drive to different grocery and convenience stores and pull the ice cream from their stockroom freezers to replenish the floor stock. Then I would place orders for what was needed and work with stores for upcoming sales. I was in my second week of training and still had my boss with me as the trainer. I didn't have my company clothes yet, so I was wearing a plain polo, a New York Mets hat, and khakis. I went into our biggest grocery store partner in a kinda snooty neighborhood and started putting out my merchandise. I felt a tap on my shoulder and it was a middle-aged lady. She asked where she could find the frozen spinach. Meanwhile, there's 3 store employees with the store name on their attire in the same section. I said, I'm not sure, but I would guess by the frozen vegetables. She started telling me how I should know, and if I don't know, then I should escort her to that part of the store. I calmly explained that I don't work for the store, and that I'm in fact a vendor. She responded with, ice cream people don't put out their own ice cream, then demanded to see my manager. So I call my boss over, who's wearing our company logo. She tells my boss how I refuse to tell her where the frozen spinach is. He politely told her that we didn't work for the grocery store, and that we were vendors. She demanded to see the store's real manager after again stating that ice cream people don't put their own ice cream out, so someone went and got the manager. The store manager came over and asked her what the issue was. She told him to fire us for lying to her and refusing to help her. He responded with, I can't fire them, they're vendors for an ice cream company. This lady blew a gasket and started screaming at us in the store, claiming that we were gaslighting her by insisting that we worked for an ice cream company because they don't put out their own stock. She claimed that she was never going to shop there again and left a full cart of groceries. My boss, the store's manager, and I all looked dumbfounded as she said that she was driving to a competitor to shop. A few weeks later, I saw her back in the same store, and this time I was wearing the company logo on 2 articles of clothing. She saw me coming and ducked down an aisle fast to avoid me. I still to this day don't know why she picked that hill to die on. I also don't understand why she was so insistent that ice cream vendors don't merchandise their own products. I think this is a case of somebody that's like, I'm very smart and I know how things work, when they've never been involved in the process of how a convenience or grocery store functions. Some things do get stocked by the store, but there are a lot of products that do get stocked by people who don't actually work for the store. But you know, that kind of stuff never works for people who can't admit that they don't know everything. This next story is by Chibi Chara, a sweet I don't work here moment at Target regarding a missing sweatshirt size. Early this morning, I was out with my mom so she could return a product at Target, which she bought the week before while wearing a purple designed t-shirt, jeans, and a blue floral mask. As we got inside the store, she went to the customer service to get a refund, while I went straight to the back to check out the electronics section, as I enjoy finding new accessories for my Switch. Now with this store, as some have different layouts, I was able to head straight back from the front entrance and turn left at the corner with the fitting rooms. Just as I was rounding the corner, a nice elder lady, I'll call nice lady, approached me and asked politely if I worked there. I stop and reply, no, I don't work here, but I may still be able to help. Nice lady looks a bit surprised, but then asks if I used to work here. I say no once more, but tell her that I come here frequently so I know where a lot of things are. She hesitates, but then tells me that a sale started today for several colored sweaters, but she can't find the one she likes in medium as she's checked the display. I follow her over to where the display is showing them and go through them myself to see if one was overlooked. Nice lady surprised that there's very little considering the sale just started. I agreed and mentioned they may have additional stock they haven't been able to put out yet, as many places are short-staffed. I step around the display towards the aisle to see if there's any staff at the fitting room. Nice lady and her husband, who had been standing further back, follow. There is none. I turn back to them and mention that there's usually someone over in the electronics section and that we can ask them to call someone over to see if they have any mediums. So we walk just down the aisle towards the electronics section, however, find no one there as well. Nice lady begins to look disappointed, but I had remembered they had a button you could press to call an associate. Nice lady and her husband look surprised, but they were happy they didn't have to search the store. Not a minute later, we see an employee wearing a red and white plaided shirt and a name tag. I'm guessing she was a supervisor. As they approached, she kindly asked, "How can I help you?" I briefly explained that I know this isn't in this department, but the nice lady and older gentleman were looking for a different size for the sweater. That's when nice lady approaches and shows her the sweater and talks to the Target employee herself for a minute before the employee calls to ask for an associate to come to the fitting rooms. Nice lady and older gentleman are happy that someone's able to help them now and thank me for the help before they head back over to the fitting rooms with the employee. And lastly, I tell them to have a nice day before exploring the electronics section for any new goods. Even though there wasn't any indication that I worked there, I don't mind helping people when they ask nicely. I've worked in retail myself in various environments and have also had to ask for help myself. Though if I have to ask another customer, it's usually for something I can't reach as I'm very short. I was kind of reading through the comments a little bit after reading this story, and people say maybe it's because you were shopping at Target, which I guess is kind of regarded as a slightly higher class superstore. To be fair, if I think Walmart and I think about asking a random customer for help, the first thing that jumps into my head is like somebody staring and walking away from me without saying anything. But really, it just comes down to, are they a good person? Our next story is by Tubist61. Let me see if he's in for you. I grew up in a pub. For those unsure of how that works, there's a bar downstairs, and we lived in a flat/apartment upstairs. My parents used to be quite generous, and if someone was looking for a family member, they could call the bar phone, and if the person was in the bar, we would call them through to take the call. That was a system that worked well for many years. Then my parents decided they'd seen enough of the bar trade and decided to take time out. Sadly, this was driven by my dad being diagnosed with lung cancer and being given limited time. We sold the pub and moved to a house in the same town, and as the family all knew the phone number, they took the number to the new house. Of course, this meant we still got called for folks who might be in the bar, but we always said, sorry, it's not the bar anymore, try the new number. What we then found was the new owners of the bar were less helpful than we were and refused to call folks through to take a call. This also predated the advent of the mobile phone by some time. Then came the night this really became unpleasant. I had brought my dad home from a chemo session in the afternoon, and he was totally wrecked by it. This was towards the end of his life, and he was really ill. We were sitting chatting and the phone rang, so I answered it. There was a drunk-sounding woman's voice at the other end, and she said, "Is so-and-so in the bar?" I told her that this wasn't the number for the pub anymore, and gave her the new number. She said okay and hung up. About 10 minutes later, she rang back and said, "Nice try, I know he's in the bar, can you get him for me?" I told her it wasn't the bar anymore and said goodbye. This continued for another hour, call after call after call. Every time she called, I told her to stop calling and that this wasn't a bar, it was a private house. Things went quiet for a while, and then we took my dad up and got him into bed and gave him his painkillers for the night. Around 11:30 p.m., the phone rang again, and it was the same woman, and by now she sounded very drunk. She said, "I know it's the bar and I know you're hiding him from me. I'm his wife. Get him to the freaking phone now." I heard my mom telling my dad it was okay and that we would leave the phone off the hook, but he was clearly in pain. At that point, I decided to screw her night over like she was screwing ours. "Okay, yes, this is the pub, but your husband can't come to the phone just now. He's just in the back room with his girlfriend. He said we shouldn't tell you where he is, but we do know he was asking if we had any rooms to let." I put the phone down, took it off the hook, and the next day I contacted the phone company to change our number. I have no idea what happened to that woman and her husband, but I really don't care. My dad passed a few weeks later. Time helps get things in perspective, and we're over 40 years down the road now. I still don't get why "you have the wrong number" doesn't compute for some folks. I definitely feel bad for OP in this story. This is going on during one of the most stressful, maybe painful moments of OP's life, so although maybe it might have been overboard to lie and say their husband was cheating on them or whatever, you kind of understand when you're just trying to deal with the call, hang up, stop calling, and focus on the situation that's actually going on. This next story is by Catatonicus. Just now at Walmart. So I was sewing new cushions for my RV dining benches when I realized I was a bit short on material. I quickly ran to the nearest Wally World. I went to the fabric station, found my fabric, but there was no employee to cut the fabric and price it. I hit the button, I waited and waited, I hit the button again several times. After literally 20 minutes, I started to roll out my fabric so that when she showed up, it was ready for cutting and it would expedite the process. Yet still no one came. So I stood there when two ladies come up to the table with bolts of fabric. "Hi, can you get these really quick? We're in a hurry," they told me. I looked at them and said, "No, honey, I don't work here." "Well, you certainly look official," they replied. I looked down at my outfit. I was wearing patterned leggings and a pro-marijuana t-shirt, and a mask that has a Russian word on it that means runt. I started laughing and they got mad, threatened to call the manager. I was about to tell them to hurry up and call because I was still waiting, but just then, the worker showed up. OP must have looked fantastic rolling out that fabric or something because that outfit does not look like a Wally World employee outfit, that's for sure. And our final story of the day is by Specialist Leg. I was asked for a beer in my gym clothes. So let's jump to my very funny story. So I haven't gone out since the start of the pandemic until today. But at first, I didn't have any plans of going out. It happened to be a workout day for me, and we're sending off a friend who's going to study abroad. I get ready for the gym, leggings and sports bra, and I go to the closet, go grab a t-shirt to put on top. The first one I grab is from this artisan beer place called La Rana Dorada. I'm on the Republic of the Panama. So we work out, and suddenly we're all invited to dine together and have a drink, so I jump at the chance. I haven't gone out since March 11th, 2020, and to my luck, we happen to go to this other artisan beer place called Central. Well guys, you may guess what happened. At some point, I was walking out from the restroom back to my table, and this very tipsy lady in a booth proceeded to ring me over to ask, "Can you bring me an IPA?" I look at her and, half laughing, half apologetic, show her from my CrossFit shoes and leggings to huge logo from the other franchise on my shirt, and with all the pleasure in the world say, "I don't work here, lady." She quickly realized her mistake despite her tipsiness, and I had an amazing story to share back at my table. At least in this situation, the outfit wasn't like outlandish to assume, and a lot of artisan beer places, they may be trying to be trendy, and they might allow their employees to wear something a lot less formal than you'd expect. If I went to a place like that and the employees were wearing leggings and some gym shoes, I don't think it would surprise me at all. and they were tipsy, so you just have to give that factor in. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So of all these stories I've read today, which is your favorite and why? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you haven't yet, if you could like and subscribe, that would mean a lot to me. Whatever you do, whether it's liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, all of it helps grow this channel, and I appreciate the heck out of it. So until next time, I'll see you all tomorrow with some more stories.